What is going on, everybody? Happy Mock Draft Monday and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a Mock the Mock, taking a look at Peter Schrager's most recent mock draft. I've heard this one is definitely different. Peter is one of my favorite TV personalities from Good Morning Football, so I'm excited to get a different perspective and kind of analyze some different picks. Draft night is always crazy. It does not go as we expect, so kind of provide my feedback on what I would think of these different fits should they happen. We're going to get into it, but please do like, subscribe, and comment down below. Really helps me out. And a reminder as well to take out your phones and set a reminder for draft night. My live stream is getting closer and closer. The NFL draft is getting closer and closer. I'm super excited. I know you guys got lots of options, but I encourage you and welcome you to join me on draft night for a really fun night and couple of days after that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, not going to waste any time. I like those picks. So he did go the Mac Jones to San Francisco route, which opens up the door to talk about this because I haven't done a lot of analysis on this. So there's two different ways to look at this. Number one, that's a lot to give up for a quarterback that probably will be better than Jimmy Garoppolo, but there's no guarantee. But as far as like ceiling and physical traits, you're basically doing this so that you can get Jimmy Garoppolo, but get him on a cheap rookie contract and potentially guarantee more health is really the way I look at this. Now, Shanahan, he's had Matt Ryan, Brian Hoyer, he's had Matt Schaub, if you go way back in the day. He's more than comfortable with a pocket passing quarterback that doesn't have an amazing arm and all these athletic traits. But we did also see him with RG3 in Washington, where they got really creative in the run game and kind of took the league by storm. So I personally would not make this pick. I would be taking Justin Fields, but there's a lot of rumors that this could happen. I love the theory that the PFF podcast was talking about how the Niners are maybe just doing this to try to trick the Jets into New York Jetsing themselves. I have a lot of faith in Joe Douglas and the new staff there to not do this and get tricked by Kyle Shanahan, but those guys do a lot of respect for Shanny as well. So if Kyle Shanahan is leaking that he likes Mac Jones, just maybe the Niners would take Mac Jones and Zach Wilson would fall here. So I don't think that we would need to obliterate this pick. I think this would be better than, for example, Daniel Jones going 6th overall to the Giants. I think Mac Jones is a legitimate first-round quarterback prospect, so it's not terrible. This would be like a D+, C- range. I would definitely give Mac Jones a chance, but is that the best use of resources to give up all those picks to come up for Mac Jones? I just don't think so, and I think that they look inside this division, see Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, and now Matthew Stafford, and say, we can't have the 4th best quarterback in this division. And Mac Jones is probably never going to be anything, more than the 3rd best quarterback amidst those 4. So I would not agree with this pick. I would give him a chance. I think any quarterback here has an excellent chance to succeed. I mean, heck, we've seen CJ Beathard have relative success on this team. So I would not like this pick. I don't think they go this route in real life, but if they do, it's going to be pretty wild, and it's going to open up some pretty crazy scenarios here. So let's see what could happen here. So Justin Fields going 4th in a trade up from the Patriots. I love this. You put him there with Cam Newton and basically, give him a mentor. You don't have to change the offense much because both of these guys are phenomenal, like power runners behind that offensive line. And I really think, you'd probably start Cam Newton for, the first half of the season. And then I do think Justin Fields would take over, open up that offense a little bit more. But that would definitely be exciting. Do I think Justin Fields will be there at 4? No, but maybe this is for Trey Lance. And for the Patriots, whose roster to me is just stacked, could maybe use one more like slot playmaker with Edelman there being kind of iffy, but can't complain about Fields coming up here at number 4. And then we get into the Bengals debate, the great Bengals debate of 2021. So we're going Jamar Chase here for the Bengals, if we're Peter Schrager here. And I'm buying more and more into this idea. I'm not going to lie. That Penei Sewell is still the number 1 tackle. He's an excellent talent, but I will say that he has lost some steam. NFL teams that have kind of gotten to interview him and just the pro day and It's not that teams don't like him, but I think he's lost steam as this generational tackle prospect. And there's questions about sort of his technique and his final year. So I still think that whether you go Sewell or Jamar Chase here, it's an absolute upgrade for the Bengals. But I could see why you go Jamar Chase, who just might be the best player in this class. It's either him or Kyle Pitts. I think it's Kyle Pitts, but Jamar Chase is also phenomenal. If he came back and repeated what he did as a sophomore, I think we'd probably be saying Jamar Chase is the best player in this class. That's not a slight to Kyle Pitts. It's just Jamar Chase was absolutely remarkable. And that was with Joe Burrow here, and their chemistry was just spectacular. So you do get kind of added value in going Jamar Chase because you have the evidence that him and Burrow work really well together. And then maybe you come back in the second round, or maybe you could even trade up back into the first round and still take advantage of a deep tackle class. So if Penei Sewell is not a guarantee, it does work for me. I don't think it's a bad pick either way you go. It's interesting that it's such a heated debate because it's like, okay, if you get Penei Sewell, you've upgraded the offensive line. That's fantastic. If you take Jamar Chase, you give Joe Burrow maybe the best receiving core. Probably not in the NFL, but it's probably top 5, and you get him his weapon back. So either way you go here, I don't think it should be this massive hostile debate, but I would give it an A. Like I can get behind either of these picks at this point. I'd probably go Sewell, but I'm definitely rethinking it. Okay, now I'm getting a little confused. The Miami Dolphins taking Rashan Slater, and this is kind of buying into this idea that the NFL is not as high on Penei Sewell, and Rashan Slater going as the first offensive lineman off the board. To me, for the Dolphins to come up from 12 to get to 6 to take Slater, like I would be a little critical of that. I get it was like a 3-team trade scenario, but they gave up an extra first-round pick, which is like that's not a small thing to just give that up. I understand it was kind of this 3-team trade scenario, but I do think that Slater, you could probably get him at 12. And if you don't, in this scenario, you might get Sewell. You might get Christian Darrisaw, also a great prospect. So coming up for Rashan Slater with the 6th pick in the draft, I would probably be a little bit critical of that. But that said, I love Rashan Slater on the Dolphins because I think they need a right tackle. I really do. They might need a left tackle too. We don't know about Austin Jackson yet. I think they just need tackles in general. I think it's the biggest need on this team. And not taking Kyle Pitts here because Mike Gesicki is an asset for this team. It's not that Kyle Pitts couldn't have success there, but you're reducing the value that Mike Gesicki has as the big slot receiver that can occasionally play tight end there. They're virtually the same player. If there is an NFL comp, it's a better version of Mike Gesicki. But anyway, it wouldn't be a bad pick to take Rashan Slater. I don't get why there's this massive falling out on Penei Sewell. There could be some legitimate kind of character stuff that teams are picking up on. Obviously, Peter Schrager is very dialed in. Daniel Jeremiah is very dialed in to the conversations in the NFL, the guys that actually get to talk to these guys. So there very well could be something there. It's easy for us to sit back from our desks and say, oh my God, Penei Sewell is amazing. How is he not tackle 1? Well, sometimes these guys have legitimate character stuff that just, causes these guys to either not develop or flame out. Worst case scenario, like Isaiah Wilson last year. So there could be something there. Hard for us to say. I still think tape-wise, Penei Sewell is the best tackle. Anyway, the Cardinals coming up here for Kyle Pitts. I love it. I think they do need a secondary weapon. Trying to cover Kyle Pitts and DeAndre Hopkins, pretty crazy. I mean, you're talking about probably giving up next year's first-round pick and next year's third. So you're giving up a decent haul, but their roster's starting to fill out. I will say, they still need some help on defense and the offensive line. So a little bit, that's a lot to give up for another weapon. But I still love this. I would be pretty excited about that for Kyler Murray. And he'd be a great fit in that offense as well. We saw a decent amount of we saw a decent amount of success for Dan Arnold in that offense, and Kyle Pitts is just a super version of that. Then the Carolina Panthers, after we got Sam Darnold here, we're going to go Penei Sewell. I'm saying this like I'm doing the mock draft, but this is Peter Schrager. Love it. I mean, that'd be a pretty much home run pick. I think if they could get Pitts or Sewell or Chase, but I don't think Chase will be there at 8. But yeah, if they could get Pitts or Sewell, that's best case scenario for the Carolina Panthers. You get some sort of elite talent for Sam Darnold. I love it. Denver Broncos landing Trey Lance at 9. I think it's possible. I really do, especially if Mac Jones goes 3. But I've talked about this in depth. The Broncos have quite possibly, man, I don't know if I'm ready to say this, but do they have the best roster in the NFL outside of the quarterback position? You could make a pretty strong case. I mean, the front 7 could maybe use a middle linebacker, but pretty damn good there. The secondary looks like it's going to be one of the better secondaries in the NFL next year, coached by Vic Fangio. So the defense in general, I have no concerns about it getting Von Miller back next year. And then offensively, O-line's fine, but these receivers in the next year with Noah Fant in there as well. You got running backs. I really do think they're in the top 3 or 4 conversation for well-balanced rosters, except for that quarterback position. You do the great battle of Trey Lance, Drew Lock. Shout out to my Texans series on TFG Plays where we had this quarterback battle, and Trey Lance won it out. So not that Madden matters here, but you get the point. Trey Lance would be an excellent sort of guy to come in and compete, and you emerge with one quarterback, maybe lighting a fire under Drew Lock's ass to hit the film room a little harder, and maybe encouraging Trey Lance to speed up his development as well. So, love that. Dallas Cowboys at 10, Patrick Surtain, Micah Parsons at 11. These were literally in last week's podcast, these 2 picks as my best fits for each team. And yeah, go listen to what I said about them in that podcast if you want further analysis there, but absolutely love those scheme fits and the value. Then the Eagles taking Jalen Waddle. I'm fine with it. You know, it's either him or Devontae Smith here. I'm cool with either one. Waddle is my number 2 receiver, but I do think actually Devontae Smith might make more sense for the Eagles. Not that I'm huge on Jalen Reagor. I had a 3rd round grade on him last year, and he did not look great as a rookie. But they do have speed on this offense. The burner dudes, that's not the issue. They drafted a ton of speed last year. That was like their big focus. So to go back to that with Waddle, little redundant. I think he would be their best receiver. But the one thing, even if Devontae Smith is technically my number 3 receiver, these 2 guys are very tight. Jalen Hurts is very much a one-read quarterback at this point in time. His film, it punches you in the face. Like, he is first read and then run, which is fine for a young player, but kind of similar to Josh Allen and what they did getting Stephon Diggs, who ironically is my comparison for Devonta Smith. It's a thing. Like, you want a route-running, true number 1 receiver for a one-read, first-read quarterback, and we saw Josh Allen get more comfortable and not be such a, one-read, then scramble type of quarterback, but you get the point. It helps to have a guy that is the primary number 1 option for your offense that can do all of the different route combinations, beat press coverage. That is Devonta Smith as opposed to Jalen Waddle. So even though Waddle's my number 2 receiver and I wouldn't be upset with this pick, I do think Devonta Smith would be a better fit for what they need for that offense. Then we got the Chargers going Christian Darrisaw. Easy pick there. Great value. That left tackle spot, one of the premium, glaring needs in the draft. You're looking at the Cowboys getting a corner at 10 or trading down. Chargers tackle. And then you got the Vikings here. A lot of people mock edge to the Vikings, and it makes sense. It really does, but they have some guys there. Stay with me here while I look up some of these names here because I'm drawing blanks. But they've got, obviously, Danielle Hunter there, who is a star if he's there. So I get this kind of idea that you don't know his future health-wise or contractually if he wants to be there. So I understand that angle of it, but don't sleep on the combination of DJ Wanham as that kind of physical freak that Zimmer is developing there, and Stephen Weatherly, who can play. So, they have pieces, and they're not a team that's traditionally invested high in the draft in that position. And I think Zimmer has a lot of confidence in his ability to get those guys in the mid-round. So it's just something to consider here for the Vikings. It's not that it isn't a need, but they don't have a second-round pick, and that offensive line is the primary focus here. So if you go edge, and it's not like you're picking up any great linemen in free agency at this point in time. So if you go edge here, you're kind of screwed unless you package picks to come up into the second round, but that's pretty risky. I love the Vikings trading down and targeting a guard in the 20s, or you could even go way down to like get a ton of picks, get someone to come up here for, I don't know, Devontae Smith or someone, get a ton of picks, and maybe you find a Jason Owe later and a guard, or I don't know exactly how it would play out, but to me, this just isn't the best use of resources for the Vikings. I don't think it's the direction that the team wants to go. I understand it, but I don't see them doing this in real life. It's not that I would shred this pick, but I just don't think that's the direction this team wants to go. We'll find out on draft night. Then the Atlanta Falcons, who moved down to 15. I don't like this pick, really at all. You've got Deion Jones. You've got, Foyesade Aluakun, who has been actually a really good player in this role. He might be their third. He's probably their fourth best defender behind like Jarrett Terrell and Deion Jones. And both those linebackers are tiny. This defense has not had a ton of success with all these tiny linebackers, and you're going to just get mauled yet again. This would be a really freaking terrible pick. I don't know why he made that. Like, that's the one position on this team that they wouldn't draft early, honestly. Like, they go O-line, quarterback, running back, tight end, corner, safety, D-tackle, D-end, and then linebacker in like the 6th round. That's freaking terrible. I don't know what Schrager's thinking there. It's kind of a poor understanding of what the Falcons, just everything in general about the Falcons, especially after you traded down. So then the Lions get Devontae Smith at 16 after trading down. Did I miss that? Did I miss? What? Oh, that was the Cardinals pick. Okay. I love the Lions trading down, getting picks. I mean, you might be going to draft a quarterback next year, so to get the Cardinals first, that's not guaranteed to be, a 20s pick. It probably will be, but you don't know. That could be the 13th pick next year. You package those to go get a quarterback, or you already have the first pick and you balance that out. But to get Devontae Smith at 16 after trading down, that'd be a literal home run for the Lions. That's probably their biggest need, and you get a first rounder next year. That's a perfect trade down. I love the idea of them trading down. And then the Raiders at 17, taking Greg Newsome. God, just another corner for the Raiders. I don't hate it. So the new defense here is going to be that Seattle 3 defense. I do think he could play that, but J.C. Horn is still there, as is Caleb Farley. So I get the Farley injury stuff, but J.C. Horn in this defense as that physical in-your-face corner, he would also be much more of a Gruden grinder type of dude. So I like Greg Newsome a lot, and I don't even necessarily think 17 is like the craziest reach ever, but given the pieces on the board, I don't like that pick really at all to go him over J.C. Horn, especially in that system. I don't think that's a great understanding of the type of defense that they're going to be running next year, and even the type of players that the Raiders like. So I don't like that pick. And Najee Harris at 18, yeah, you did get tackle. You did get a tackle early, so you get the running back. It's just a little rich, but I do like the way Najee Harris could come into this offense and kind of provide a spark. So I'm fine with it. I think if you can get Javonte Williams in the 2nd round, it's pretty comparable. So this would be like a B- grade for me. It's fine. You don't have a ton of needs left at this point. I think you can get edge later. So it's not. I'm kind of talking myself into it a little bit, especially if you go offensive tackle early, which they did. So it's fine. Trayvon Merrick at 19 to the football team. I do like the scheme fit quite a bit. The safety group there. I know. Did I say Redskins? I may have. It's been a while since I've said that, but they have Cameron Curl, who this team is pretty crazy about, or the fans are pretty crazy about, but he was a 7th round pick. He's not a phenomenal athlete. I don't know if you're banking on him to be a star safety. And Landon Collins, he's could be more of a linebacker this year. Linebacker is a need, so you maybe do more 3 safety stuff. Everyone kind of does these days. So he would absolutely have a role as a full-time player for them, and he's a great player. Now, I had Merrick as a top 10 prospect in the draft before the end of the NFL season, says Peter Schrager. I don't know. He's a good safety prospect. I don't think he stacks up against any of the safety guys last year. I don't think he's close to the prospect Asante Samuel was, who was my number one safety last year. Darnell Savage, I think, was a much better safety prospect the year before. So a little bit early, and it's not like the biggest need in the world, but it's fine. Like, decent pick. I could see it happening. The Bears taking Kadarius Toney. If you're getting rid of, or you're planning on letting Anthony Miller go or trading him away, it makes sense. It does make sense. You got Allen Robinson, who may or may not be there. He might not show up. And then you've got Anthony Miller, who's basically a similar player to Kadarius Toney, quick separator, run after catch guy. And then I love Darnell Mooney, who's a piece of this plan here. So I could see this. It makes some sense. I'm just kind of going best player available for the Bears. That's not Kadarius Toney for me. Rashad Bateman, for example, would be the much better player here. But it's fine. Indianapolis Colts, J.C. Horn. I'm fine with it. I still think left tackle here, especially with like Samuel Cosme and even Tevin Jenkins. I don't know if you plan on kicking him to left or not, but I think tackle for the Colts, who aren't picking till the 50s. Like, you're probably not banking on getting a starting tackle there. It's a deep class. You could, but I would go tackle first. It's a zone-heavy system where corners can step up. Now, J.C. Horn here in this defense would be nasty. So I'm not like overly critical. I just have questions about the tackle position. So I would hope that you're signing a Villanueva or maybe Mitchell Schwartz or something like that to play left tackle for you. So here's the Jalen Phillips pick for Tennessee. So they brought in Bud Dupree on a pretty big contract. You have Harold Landry. So it's kind of similar to like when the Packers drafted Rashawn Gary. You do need 3 edge players. You've got to rotate these guys. And Phillips has super high upside. Similar pick here to when they took Simmons. Right? Simmons? Anyway, the D tackle from Mississippi State. Name's escaping me. I think this is bothering me. I loved him in that trade. I'm going to look it up because this is bothering me that I can't think of this name right now. Haven't had my coffee yet today. Yeah, Jeffrey Simmons. Anyway, similar to that, where he had not injury concerns like Jalen Phillips did, but a guy that potentially is falling because of injuries. This is such a tough pick to analyze because I just don't know about the concussion situation. I love him as a player. He is now my highest rated like edge player, independent of the injury stuff. So he would have a role here, and potentially they would let Harold Landry go. They've let a lot of free agents go over the last few years to go get paid elsewhere. And Landry himself hasn't been amazing. So it could work. That receiver spot, though, I would be pretty mad as a Titans fan if we didn't take Rashad Bateman at 22 and we took Jalen Phillips after just paying Bud Dupree. So I'll be honest, I don't like this pick. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I would be pretty pissed as a Titans fan. Jets taking Rondale Moore. I'm fine with it, man. In this offense, which is going to be the Shanahan offense, I love, don't get me wrong, I say I love him and then I can't think of his name. What is going on with me right now? I keep having to look up these names. Jamison Crowder, he is a phenomenal early separator in the slot, but they don't really have that juicy playmaker that Rondale Moore is. I like the comparison to Deebo Samuel in this offense as just a guy they manufacture touches for, and he would be a nasty weapon for Zach Wilson. I can get behind this fit, definitely. Even with Rashad Bateman on the board, Bateman's probably a little more comparable to like Corey Davis in this offense, so I actually understand kind of that lightning and thunder. And then you got your sort of true slot type in Jamison Crowder. I can get behind that pick. But Tevin Jenkins still not off the board, as is Samuel Cosme not off the board. Landon Dickerson to the Steelers. Great scheme fit. I think in an offense like this that doesn't run a ton of wide zone stuff like the Steelers do, you can make a pretty strong case that Landon Dickerson is the better inside zone trench warrior type of center than Creed Humphrey, who's my number 1 center. I'm not too worried about the injuries here. Coming back from an ACL or even 2 ACLs these days, players do it all the time. I mean, the dude was doing cartwheels, photobombing Mac Jones at his pro day. So I would like this pick quite a lot, even more with Najee Harris off the board. But even if Najee is on the board, I can be just fine with Landon Dickerson at 24. I like that a lot. Oh, goodness. This would be bad. This would be really bad. The Jaguars taking Jason Owe, basically admitting defeat on K'Lavon Chaisson already, who to me was a better prospect than Jason Owe as that developmental freak athlete who's young. I don't get the point of this. You have Chaisson and Josh Allen. Have some faith. Have some faith in your staff that they can bring those guys along, and don't use this pick on Jason Owe, who is incredibly raw. I think he has just as much of a chance to succeed as a tight end in the NFL as he does at edge. And that's just a credit to his athleticism. But he has virtually no skill set as a pass rusher. You need to bring him along there. I think this and the Falcons pick are, pardon my French, fucking terrible mock draft picks by Peter Schrager. We've seen teams do stuff like this, but those are pretty bad. Browns taking Gregory Rousseau. I like this fit for Rousseau a lot. I've actually made this pick myself, so I like this. That said, it does sound like they're going to sign Jadeveon Clowney, and I'm sure even Peter would change the pick there. Ravens getting Caleb Farley at 27. Wow. So let's see. You got Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. Peters has got to be close to 30 at this point. I'm never going to fault the team for taking really good corners. It's like offensive linemen and corners and wide receivers. It's like those are valuable positions. If really good players are there, just take them. You never know who's going to get hurt. You never know when someone's going to get too expensive for you. The Ravens are going to have to pay Lamar Jackson soon, so maybe Peters becomes expendable for them very soon. And even then, Farley might be a better player than Peters too. So I'm not going to fault this pick. They have a lot of glaring needs. They need a center, they need an edge rusher, and they could probably use another receiver as well. So if you're drafting for need, you're going to be a little bit so-so about this for the Ravens, but Farley falling to 27, it is a little bit difficult to pass up, especially with the Ravens' record of developing defensive backs. So, my God. Can you imagine with Humphrey and Farley there? It'd be very nasty. Then you get the Saints taking Zaven Collins. Makes a ton of sense. Totally fine with this. I've had them taking linebackers in the past. You're getting a little bit big at linebacker there. Maybe not as quick with Demario Davis and Zaven Collins, but I'm perfectly fine with this selection. Packers taking Nick Bolton. Just very bland. Very, very bland. I actually don't have a ton of confidence that Nick Bolton is going to be a better player than Kamal Martin or even the undrafted guy out at UCLA last year that showed some flashes. I think unless you're talking about a JOK, even a Zaven Collins, who I think is just a much better player than Nick Bolton, a super high upside project like Jamin Davis, for example, bizarre scenario where Micah Parsons is available. But to take Nick Bolton, who... Is he a massive upgrade in the first round to some decent athletes they have there? Not really, especially in year one. That's just way too early, and the corner and wide receiver groups here, it just makes me want to puke in Green Bay. So to pass on an Asante Samuel, is Rashad Bateman still there? Rashad Bateman's still there. So to pass on Bateman and Asante Samuel, who to me are true top 20 players in this class, that makes me want to fucking puke if Green Bay took Nick Bolton there. Then the Buffalo Bills, Asante Samuel, absolute amazing scheme fit. This team runs a lot of zone, a lot of match coverages. He would be an incredible player. He's very comparable to Tre'Davious White, just a little bit shorter, but a super smart player, incredibly quick. That'd be a phenomenal pick for the Bills. Terrace Marshall to the Chiefs. Can't think of a much better spot for Terrace Marshall to go than the Kansas City Chiefs, especially because that kind of bigger-bodied, Tyreek Hill is their true number one, but sort of that, traditional frame number one receiver, Terrace Marshall, to develop there. Now, Rashad Bateman's still there, but I could actually see Terrace Marshall making more sense for the Chiefs in the first round because he's got a little more of that vertical speed, a little more of that vertical presence as well. That's the way they like to run this offense. And you got Hardman, you got Tyreek, you got Kelsey, you've got your underneath weapons, but they kind of want what they hoped they were going to get from Sammy Watkins. Terrace Marshall has a ton of potential to be that. And the Bucs taking Davis Mills. What do you want me to say? He's not a first-round quarterback. Go sign Josh Rosen or something if you're trying to develop a guy. They already had Josh Rosen and said no thank you, but it just wouldn't be a good pick. It would be pretty fucking terrible. Wow, 3 F-bombs on this one. Getting emotional. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed my analysis. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. A reminder to come back on draft night, getting actual live reactions just like this, but even more heated. I'm actually going to have highlights this year for that draft coverage, which is going to be really sweet, like film highlights, being able to play that, and sound bites. It's going to be awesome, man. I'm super excited. Draft is just less than 3 weeks away, so I'm stoked, man. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow for actually a 7-round mock draft. Gonna kind of promote what you can get on Patreon with those team-specific 7-round mock drafts. Gonna randomly select a team and do a 7-round mock draft tomorrow. So we'll see you guys for that. Podcast on Wednesday. Peace.